Pickaxe.
Welcome to the Chance Encounters podcast. We've been running board game cafes around the UK for about 6 years now. From hen do's to family do's, from first dates to breakups, we've seen it all and recommended a game. But now we're looking for a fresh challenge. Each week we'll invite a guest who will put our board game knowledge to the test. They'll come armed with an abstract and absurd scenario, and it's up to us to figure out what the situation calls for and recommend a game that'll totally topple their tower. The game that the guest loves the most will score a point, and at the end of the series, whoever has the most points will be crowned the Titan of Board Games.
You allowed to give that title out?
Well, you say that. I was wondering whether or not, whenever it comes to the whole, like, wrestling or anything that seems vaguely American, it was always like the international star of X, Y, and Z.
World Series.
Exactly.
One country participates.
Oh, more than one country. Oh, it's Mr. Universe now. Anyway, I'm Richard Scarsbrook. I'm one of the co-hosts and co-founders of Chance Encounters. I've been doing it for about 6 years, and I like to eat ice creams from the bottom up. Cones, obviously, not in a cup.
Cotton.
And my other... We'll get into this later. It seems like it's going to be a hot topic. My other co-host here is Ben.
Hello, I'm Ben. I work with the Yogscast. I also stream, and I love board games. I'm a massive nerd who eats ice creams like a human being.
And our guest Chance Encounters host is Russ.
Hello, I'm Russell. I'm head of games at Chance Encounters Bristol, and I also do the social media. And I also love board games, as hopefully you're about to find out. And I'm also a huge nerd, and I prefer my ice cream, like, I don't know, with wafers. I don't know. Is that
With wafer, like in the top?
Or chocolate
how's
bits. Yeah,
Okay.
the chocolate bits, I think that's it. And I don't know how to, yeah.
And our guest who will be proposing this absurd and abstract scenario is Lydia.
Hello, I'm Lydia. I'm a streamer and I work with the Yogscast. And I don't really have an ice cream related fact, but I have a general fact that I am a really weird cat lady, like really weird. Like I'm obsessed with my cats. Like it's really sad.
I mean, you can have obsessive cat ladies, but what makes it weird?
Well, I've created sort of backgrounds for all of them.
Oh, wow.
Jobs, stories.
So you got character sheets.
Yeah, literally like character sheets for all of them. They all have like certain ways they speak, voices, dialect. It's intense. It's
Okay.
intense.
Can I say when you have reached the number of cats that you have?
Oh, no, just 3.
Oh, 3. Oh,
Just 3.
Just 3. That's all right.
Not
Super
Yes.
crazy.
Which one's your favourite?
I can't pick a favourite.
Yeah,
They're all my babies.
I know you love them all equally.
Yes.
But
I literally can't. I honestly feel like I don't want to break their hearts. Like somehow my cats are going to watch this, listen to this podcast and be devastated. I just can't do that. I'm sorry.
which one are you most worried about upsetting?
Oh, I just feel
that's
like
the one you
I
love
feel
the
like
most.
that was sneaky. Sneaky, I like it.
Hastings is the most sensitive. He's the most sensitive. I'm worried about upsetting my cat Hastings, okay?
Oh, Hastings.
I have 2 very different cats.
Yeah.
One is the one that you take home, show, meet the family and everything. And the other one is the one that you
When you do-
hide away.
The one you hide in the attic when visitors come.
Are they violent?
My cat Luna is shy, and she's not super violent, but she'll give you a scratch if you stroke her more than once. Harvey is an absolutely lovable guy who flirts, and he's the perfect cat that you would want to show your family.
Yeah, I have that. I have a cat when my friends come around that I sort of parade to them. His name is Columbo, and you can put him in little dresses and little, like, I put him in a Christmas jumper, and he just goes around and he flirts and sluts himself around with all of them. And he's amazing. And then you've got the other ones who just like, you just put them in the cupboard and close the door.
Like, I do have more cats, but you just won't see them. Yeah.
I need to try and do that. I've got a dog. I'm sorry. Please don't hold that against me. I know this is competition, but I want to get to my dog to the point where I can, like, put a hat on him and he'll be okay with it. But
Dress him up. Do it.
maybe we'll see. We can put it on social.
If they like it, you gotta see.
Yeah.
Some of them, like my dog used to love wearing antlers at Christmas. And nothing else.
Oh, wow.
They do that thing where you put like a jacket on them or whatever. They just kind of just roll. Like, what the fuck do
He
I
had
do?
to wear a boot once when he'd hurt his foot, and he would just could not understand what was happening.
He wore a little
He was like, he was just walking like he didn't know how to walk anymore. That boot just threw him right off.
That is so adorable.
But like it's a classic dog thing though, because I've seen so many dogs do that. Like, not that I have a habit of putting shoes on dogs, but I have seen it several times. It's like the classic thing
That they
where they're like,
can't,
they're like, they kind of do that like kind of splayed leg thing.
We have the situation where if it's on snow, sometimes it is a good idea to put little booties on because it can be quite abrasive to their feet. But it's literally, then you have them on all of the feet and it's just going like, whoa,
What is happening?
I thought one foot was gone, but now they're all gone. Yeah,
Maybe that's it. Maybe they're like, I can't see my foot. It doesn't exist anymore. How am I going to walk?
exactly. The pressure is all about. It's just all ground. So, Lydia, you've come with a scenario that you need a board game recommendation for. Tell me a little bit about it.
Right, now I'd like to clarify that this is very much a fictional scenario and something that I do not know about.
Yeah, so hypothetically speaking.
Hypothetically speaking, right, so I know you've had different scenarios, things that include like sound and having small amounts of space and things like that. I wanted to do more of a kind of like a relationship, like getting to know people in what would be a very awkward, possibly very like nerve-wracking situation. And the situation that I have hypothetically come up with is a swingers party.
Okay.
It's a really nice swingers party. None of this seedy stuff. You know, you pick your keys in the bowl and everyone has a fantastic evening. However, I've just got there and I don't know anyone and I can be quite shy. So I want to make friends with people before I pick my key.
Yep.
And I've brought a board game in my bag. Now, what I don't want is I don't want any Twister. I don't want any like,
Straight out that, yeah.
straight up, left
glad you nipped
hands
that in
blue.
the bud.
I don't want any of that. I want something which I'm going to really get to know the people and feel a lot more like at ease with the situation.
Yeah.
Can you help me?
You saying it's a hypothetical scenario. You seem to know a lot of information.
And you really
about how
need
these
one
work.
in time for this weekend.
It is a bank holiday, longer time. So I just like to, get some answers quickly.
Okay, so immediately I'm thinking like, are you just picking for one other person, you and one other person, and maybe multiple people, like over the course of the evening? But is it just going to be one-on-one, or do you want to game that?
I want as many people involved in this game as possible because I don't know whose key I'm picking out. Like, if I do one-on-one and then I don't pick their keys, what a waste of time.
You've got to get to know the whole group.
I want to get to know the whole group.
It's like speed swinging.
Speed swinging.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Once again, in this hypothetical situation, how many are at this party?
I envision there's about 8 to 10 of us.
Okay.
Ooh. Okay, big group.
Mm-hmm.
But this,
Let's say
like,
8. Let's say 8 because I feel like board games for 10 is, let's say 8.
Okay. It's
Making it
certainly
easy on
easier.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good idea actually. You get everyone gets a glass of wine. You break the ice with like a, like a charades or something. It's probably what they used to do back in the day.
I imagine so in the 70s. Yeah.
Is this taking place in the 70s?
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, no. But then what would be out at the time?
We have about 5 options.
Yeah, let's say
So
now.
whoever goes first will have a
I know
huge
you just
advantage.
Twister has wiped out half of your options already at this point.
Somehow we've time traveled back to the 70s with this game recommendation so that we can teach it to everyone there.
I would say it's happening now, so you have more choice on what we can.
Very kind to
Yeah.
us,
Wow.
giving us more options. And like, kind of, I know this is, you said like you don't have restrictions, but presumably this is just a normal house. You've got the lounge, you've got all of these rooms to use. You don't like basically. Are there any other restrictions in terms of where we're playing it? Do we at least have a table?
I'm picturing magnolia walls, soft beige carpet, and a nice pine table, circular in the middle of the room. That's what I'm seeing. And then the bowl with the
Circular.
keys is in the middle.
Oh, that's an obstacle.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
interesting. Can you use that in the game?
You could, yeah.
Maybe if you were playing with pieces, the keys could literally be the objects that represent the player.
I imagine like anonymity is quite important with the key bowl, right? Otherwise, everyone's just like, "That's the key that I want."
Yep.
Like most attractive person in the room, everyone lunges for the same key.
When super hot guy's got his minion's key ring, I immediately know that's him, and I'm just like,
You've been clocking everybody as they come in. You're like, which key ring's on yours?
Yeah. I don't know what the etiquette that a swingers party is?
Well, let's make up the etiquette. What do we think it would be?
Hypothetically, what would it be like?
Hypothetically. So are we talking like what key like? As someone that doesn't actually know anything about swingers parties,
We are doing a poor representation for all the swingers out there. I'm very, very sorry about this. But
I watched that Louis Theroux documentary.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Was that the one in America where they do swingers parties? It made it look really pleasant and nice, and just quite a lovely experience.
I feel like everyone has to be somewhat charismatic, right? Because
Yeah.
if you're going to go to those situations, then you need to immediately break the ice, or at least have some form of personality, so that you do strike up a conversation, and it's going to be a good evening.
Yeah, you can't go in there being super shy.
No.
I'm going to need a board game. I don't think I've got the
I
social skills.
I was thinking the same
Bust
thing.
through on my own.
Or bring
this is
several.
great. Lots of board
Turn it into a board game night,
you know what?
please.
It's actually 12.
Swingers party.
Sorry,
Quite late.
I'm sorry, guys. I didn't know Twilight Imperium was going to take 8 hours. I guess we'll all have to go to bed now. Oh no, we'll try again. We'll try the swinging thing again next time.
But if you could keep a Friday night free in your schedule for the next few weeks.
So a big part of this will be things that you immediately would dislike or like, perhaps in the game genre, or perhaps even stuff that you might dislike in potential partners, or that we want to immediately. What's up?
I'm kind of impressed that you've avoided using the term turn-offs in this scenario.
I mean, it's
Oh my god.
Noted.
Okay, let's
Oh my
follow down to
god,
that.
your Dream Phone or whatever it was. You know that game from the 90s?
Yeah.
There may be a copy of that in Chance Encounters. Just saying.
Oh my god, that's a perfect recommendation.
There you go, I've done this podcast. All right,
Nice.
bye,
Thank you very
everyone.
much. We've been great
Well
now.
done. We've never had a guest win the point before. First time for everything.
So I feel like it could go one of two ways. It could be kind of like a like a fun get to know each other where it's a bit more like personal and you can get to kind of get an idea if you would perchance like to have that person's key. Or maybe it could be like, is it a legacy thing where it goes on because it could be like a weekly swingers party.
okay.
And maybe it's like a thing that goes on for a bit longer.
Sorry, I just got excited when you said legacy games. It's like one of my favorite innovations in board games. Do you know of legacy games?
I've played a couple. I'm not like a massive board game person, but I've played a little bit. I can't remember what it's called now. There was one I played. This is a great story. There was one I played and it was great, but I can't remember what it was called.
Literally, this is my job at Chance sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
people try and explain a game in like vague terms, and I'm like, don't worry, it's that.
It's like Spies, and it's a map like
Pandemic?
Pandemic. That's
Pandemic
it.
Legacy
Yeah.
Season 0, I want to
That's
say.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a
There we go.
co-op with two people.
Look at that. How many words did I
That
get
was really
in?
good.
Yeah.
That was really
There was also the word
impressive.
spies in there. Was there spies in Pandemic?
I was
in
about
se-
to say pandemic, and then you said spies. I was like, oh god, no! I don't know what this is now.
It's Season 0, which is the sort of third in the series, weirdly. But it's a prequel to the first one, and it's setting like Soviet Union kind of era, and you're just moving spies. So instead of viruses, you've played Pandemic before, you'll probably know that it's about viruses spreading around the world. But in this one, which she's played, it is literally about like moving spies around and trying to,
Oh, like a Cold War.
yeah, that's
espionage
Cold War.
kind
Yeah,
of
that's it. Yeah.
situation.
It's so good
That's so
because you have
cool.
the little passport and you like change how your character looks. Like you like customize them with little stickers and stuff.
God.
And it's so good. I loved it.
Oh, that's awesome! It's like
Is
Mr.
it-
Potato Head.
Meets Hitler.
Oh god.
Oh my god, I literally wouldn't be able to pick Hitler out of our lineup if he changed his moustache.
It's
the
true.
perfect
It's
disguise.
true.
I feel like
It's like
that's,
when you take the glasses off someone you've never
Yeah.
seen without their glasses.
It's like when
That's-
Raz takes his glasses off. I'm like, what the hell? Who are you?
that is the quote for the trailer. Right there.
Yeah. Exactly. So in this particular legacy game, is it set over? You play 12 games, or is it more?
It's 12 to 24. It's the same as Pandemic Legacy. It's like months, isn't it? Months of the year you're playing through a year.
You've got lots
you've
of
got two
disguises that you
chances.
need to go through. Right. Okay.
Yeah. But I haven't played that one,
It's
so
cool,
it's
it's
cool. Yeah,
good,
that's
it's
so.
really good.
I've
Glowing
played
recommendations.
So you like that? What other kind of like settings or themes or mechanics or styles of board games like generally enjoy?
I mean, I guess I'm more of like a casual board game player. I like party games. I love Codenames. I think Codenames is the best. It's just so fun.
Spy comes up again.
Taking notes.
I love Secret Hitler. Hitler comes up again.
Oh, a
There's
running theme.
There's a theme.
Gotcha.
So I like social deduction games like, is it not Werewolf? Is it, no, what's it called?
One Night Ultimate Werewolf. Werewolf is a social deduction game where
the
where some
roll
of you
cards?
you have roll
Yeah.
cards and then
And
there's a
everyone goes
night
to sleep
phase and then
someone gets murdered.
So I like social deduction games and more kind of like party games. I like, would you include, I don't know if you would count it as a board game, like
we'll be the judge of that.
I think we're pretty loose
Yeah.
with the definition. Basically, anything people sit around and play together,
Yeah.
even if there's no board involved, can count as a board.
So I have these like mystery things where it's got like newspaper clippings and things.
Oh, like a Sherlock Holmes.
Like a Sherlock. That's what I wait. Let's rewind. My favorite thing is the Sherlock Holmes consulting detective games. Like I've made my way through most of them. I think there's a couple, maybe a few more.
I think there's
there's
10 in the
3
base game, and then there's an
Done that
expansion with another. I can't remember.
There's
how
like I
many.
think 2 expansions
There's
now.
two,
Like yeah,
there's the one which has got
Yeah.
the Ripper ones,
Jack
and
the
then
Ripper
there's...
and West End Adventures.
But I love that. I love that so much. Like my favorite scenario with that is it's a summer's day. I'm about 2 bottles deep of Prosecco and playing it in the garden and just doing all the silly voices. And I just love it. I love
Trawling
it so
through
much.
newspapers.
Exactly. But the thing is, so me and my partner play it, and the problem is that we start it with such good intentions, and then by the end we're both just wankered, and we never get it right. We just absolutely mess it up completely. So I love it, but I'm not very good at it.
I'm just impressed. Like literally one bottle, and I would just not have the mental capacity to solve any mysteries. I'd be like, what? Wait, what are we doing again?
I would get so salty if I was drunk and I got to the end of it, and then Sherlock smugly just goes, "Well, obviously you just go straight to the ending here. I don't know why you took 4 extra steps." I'd be like,
Such a prick.
"Oh, it's such a prick, isn't it?"
We're playing for like 4 hours, and at the end he's like, I went to 3 places and guessed it.
I think that is one of my favorite things about that game is just how smug Sherlock Holmes is.
Yeah.
They're not painting him as like some kind of hero. It's just like, well, actually, you guys, you took ages to get that. Like, come
Why don't
on.
you just do it yourself then? Why am I doing
yeah,
it?
if he knows it already, why am I doing your work for you? Like, literally, what am I being paid for to do? Like,
He just wants to show off. He's paying you to show off.
he's literally there's like, he knows he's solved all the crimes, but he's just looking at the police going, well, look how long it took you to solve that one.
So annoying. That's the only thing with those, I kind of guess those style of games though, is that you can't replay them because once you've done it,
If you're
unless
3 or 4 bottles
enough,
deep,
you might
yeah, you
forget.
could.
It's true. But yeah, it's so frustrating when you don't get it because you're like, I can't really replay this now because I've done it, but I didn't complete it properly. So that's the only thing when you have that feeling of like, you don't get that completion feeling.
It's kind of an interesting thing with that game in particular because it's a mystery solving game. So if anyone hasn't played it, it's essentially you get presented with like an introduction to a case, and then you get kind of given a map of London, old timey London, and also a newspaper from the day of the crime. And essentially then you have leads to follow. So you go like, oh, well, I want to go and speak to the coroner maybe because it's about a dead body or whatever. And then it tells you can go on there and it gives you this booklet and it gives you this number. You go in and it kind of gives you a bit of clues. But the game is essentially like a point scoring thing. So whereas with those games, a mystery solving game for me, I just want to be able to know the answer myself. It doesn't matter how long I took to get there. If I get given enough information, I want to be able to find the solution. But the way the game is, it's like, you want to try and beat Sherlock, which is, no, let's face it, nobody's ever going to do it.
No. Him.
So it's really strange, these games that are like, turn it into a point scoring thing where I just completely ignore that aspect
Yeah, we
of the
ignore the
game.
point scoring when we played that game too. It's much more fun to just try and piece it together and not be stressed about like, oh, am I going to waste time going to the library to talk to the librarian that he visited that day before he died or whatever. Like, no, I want to know like what happened.
I'm sorry.
Like, if you were a real police detective as well, you're not going to be like, No, I won't go and check with the coroner because, man, I need to get this solved by 5 p.m. rather than, and I don't care if it's wrong. I just need to get this solved, right? Like, you don't have a Sherlock Holmes to back you up and say, oh, no, don't worry. He should have checked that. It's fine.
Having not played it, though, do you find that after each story you're getting slightly better? Do you think that you progress in a fashion that you're learning?
The newspapers layer on top of each other.
Okay.
So when you're solving the first case is one newspaper that came out that day. The next case is a month later or something.
Yeah.
And so you read that day's newspaper, but facts that weren't relevant in the previous case from the previous newspaper now come into play.
Okay.
So it does get deeper and richer. And the 10th case is like, there's so much to keep in your head because you've got 10 newspapers to like reference.
Okay.
But things that you read about before that weren't relevant, suddenly you come to mind and go, oh, the circus was in town this day.
Right.
Oh, maybe the lion tamer, the claw marks on the body. It's all coming together.
Right.
That's a funny example, like claw marks. No, I'll just ignore that. And then it's like, oh, wait, the circus is in town. Of course it was a lion.
Isn't that the one where it's like they don't give you any information? They're just like, there's one where Sherlock Holmes is like, I'm not telling you anything, just look at this newspaper. And you have to work it out via that. There's no like...
Yeah, you don't have a lead to start on.
No leads, nothing.
I mean, less helpful.
Yeah,
this
he's
guy.
literally
He's the villain of the story, isn't he?
He really is. Moriarty is like...
Letting these crimes happen, like, basically.
As if I was going to say, like, this is kind of a funny interjection of Steve, fellow Chance co-owner, actually borrowed our copy of Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective and still hasn't returned it. Oh. So if he is listening to this podcast, I really hope he takes this as a sign to bring that back.
Yes, Steve.
Steve.
Let's solve the case of the missing game, Steve.
I think it was Steve. See, I'm already really good at this. Maybe
You remembered the facts you heard earlier.
Exactly. What was Sherlock? How many times did he have to go to places to find that one out?
Who is Steve? You'd have to go to Chance to figure out who Steve is. There we go. We've beat
We'll have to
Sherlock.
really delve into this backstory here. And does the claw marks have anything to do with the new cat that he's got? So back to the point at hand.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We were talking about so we're swingers, and you're trying to break the ice. We've got about 8 people at the moment. I guess you want to have everybody in a single game, or would you think it needs to be short enough games that you can have multiple ones with different people on?
I think either.
Okay.
Yeah, I think either. As long as you get to play a game with at least one person, everyone at some point. I think okay.
And roughly speaking, how long is the ice breaking with the board games, do we think here?
Oh yeah, because you don't want it to be too quick. You
definitely don't want to be too quick.
No, it's very important because people talk.
Yeah.
But also, you don't want to it to take too long, and then suddenly no one's in the mood anymore.
Exactly.
You got to strike while the iron's hot. I think okay, we're rocking up at like 6 p.m. and the fun starts at 9 p.m. Is that too late? Am I going to be too tired?
How much wine have I drank by this point?
6 p.m. is also it's an odd time, right? You go, are we eating there?
Am I having dinner?
7 o'clock
they don't want to
way
feel
zero.
all bloated and gassy.
But what
Let's say nibbles. Let's say finger food.
Okay.
Do you arrive like fashionably late at these things, or do they run on time?
Oh, God.
Like on schedule?
Do you bring anything?
Like at board game nights, I feel like the thing is you have to arrive on time, right?
You definitely don't want to arrive early because that gives the wrong impression.
Yeah.
Too eager, I think a little bit later, maybe rock up at like 6:15.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the festivities begin at around 9ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
you've got roughly 3 hours.
Roughly, that's
Ooh,
an
wow.
ample time.
3
You get
hours
loads
of board
things
games.
going
That sounds
on.
like
Oh,
the
and that's
best
too
night
long.
ever.
Actually.
I feel like that
Let's
is.
say it's too long, isn't it? Let's say 8 p.m. You got 2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah.
And you want to have remember you're going into this room not knowing anyone, so you are going to have some time of having to kind of suss people out a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm not. I don't think I'm kind of happy to give out this kind of information and help you guys a little bit, but I'm going to say it would be.
Well, thanks.
Appreciate that.
It would be nice to.
I was struggling.
No. But I was thinking, what would be interesting if it was a player elimination game?
Oh,
because then you could I don't. The only thing is in my head, I was thinking there's not really a player elimination game where you are the person in control of eliminating other players. But if there was such a game, that would be perfect because you could like eliminate the like weed ones out. I don't know if you've ever seen.
But then, do they have to pair off after they've been eliminated?
Oh yeah, maybe then that's it. You like, or basically like you choose the teams. You choose the teams.
So we're now playing dodgeball.
I don't want to get picked last. This feels bad, man. I'm just left
You
playing.
won't be in the mood after that.
That's it. I'm sat the last left in the game. I've got to finish it off. Everyone's already paired off. Like,
but in this case, this might be good though, because if you're eliminating people rather than picking people, then you're left with the best person, right? So I'm just trying to turn it on his head.
But
Sure.
Being the last person left is.
But we're talking about subjectiveness here, and you're going to be like, actually, you get away, off, go away. And then if you accidentally pull their keys out later, you're like, I've got a lot of ground to cover up. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. This is awkward.
Yeah.
This is going to be awkward.
Yeah, I don't want to be like weakest link like scenario where people are just like, get off.
I was also thinking that in terms of this scenario, you really wouldn't want to kind of ruin the mood by introducing a lot of rules at the start. You don't want to have to spend a long time teaching, right? Because nothing kills the mood more than... actually, I think if you'll find that we can't do that because the rules say not.
Yeah, you really need the glasses at that point to drive that point home.
Or literally even worse, just sitting there. Oh, actually, I don't know how to play this. So if you give me like 10 minutes, or just sit there reading out the rule book as I've seen happen at the cafe before.
It's so boring when you're playing with. With a board game scenario, you need someone who knows how to play the game and can just immediately get you in there. Otherwise, it's just you're just sitting around like.
It's the unforgivable sin of inviting everyone around to play a specific board game and not having done like a run through of a couple of turns on your own before people get there. Like,
I mean, this is what the swingers and
I was
board
thinking
games
the parallel. You don't.
You
the
have
same
to come
rule
prepared.
applies. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
it.
The same rule applies.
Like, no one wants to turn up at a swingers party when no one knows what they're doing.
Exactly.
It's awkward.
So obviously, something on the lighter end of maybe just like kind of just instant, maybe 2 minutes. Sorry, I'm using terms that could easily be misconstrued here, but something you want to get into straight
Still
away.
talking about this ice-breaking
board game. Board game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think something definitely more lighthearted, nothing too intense, nothing too mood killing.
What's the average like person at this event? Are we talking like similar in age and like?
Have you had choice at
personality?
this?
Like, yeah,
Is the group people that you didn't know, but maybe it's a...
Because there's a cliche, isn't there, about swingers parties? And I, again, don't know anything about them, but there is a cliche. They're a bit of an older crowd.
Yeah.
Are we expecting that to be the case here?
Yeah, because I was just thinking it's usually like people in their sort of like 50s, 60s, 70s, like older people who are bored of their marriage and just want to have fun.
Once again, sorry if we're misconstruing the situation.
Sorry. Maybe that's not the case. So maybe this is, maybe I am older in this scenario.
You can be you.
I mean, it could just be that everybody else is...
you are picking
I don't
this
want to go
scenario.
there and sleep with 70-year-old John.
Well, this is your hypothetical party. You just say who's there.
All
Is it
right.
going to
For
be full
whatever
of like
Young and they're
young?
hot.
Yeah.
Young and they're hot.
For whatever reasons have brought you to this swingers party, it's the same reasons that everybody else has been there. So they're similar.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
I feel like
right,
if I was
gotcha.
organising a swingers party, everyone would be similar levels of like age and attractiveness.
Yeah.
Essentially-
That's like the unspoken rule, right?
You started with a Tinder at this point. You're just being like swiping around, be like, "Hey, do you fancy swingers party? It's going to be really fun. We don't know each other, but that's the whole point of this."
Yeah, something like that.
Is there maybe there's a swingers app?
I wonder
We
if
could
that
do-
Oh my God, there
exists.
probably is.
Yeah.
I kind of want to say that by adding on a little thing that says like, oh, and there'll be board games. I think that will ensure there'll be people of similar, like people to me. You know,
Yeah.
Like that, I'm with my people at that point.
Okay, well, the further we get into this, the more I think that the board game I've got could potentially get discarded. So before we go much further, have you guys got any other questions that you wanted to answer before we get onto the sort of recommendation situation?
No, I'm the same. I've got something in mind, and I feel like the more questions we ask, the worse my recommendation gets
Yeah.
at this point. We're just going to be closing doors. So, let's stay as open-minded as possible.
Yeah, I'm
It's a good idea in this party.
I am still just as confused now as I was at the beginning of the scenario. So I feel like, yeah, let's crack on, I guess.
All right,
Okay.
I'm ready.
For fear that one of you will take my suggestion, should we go with my recommendation first?
Okay, yep.
So the recommendation that I'm going to go with is called Spyfall. Specifically, Spyfall 2, if you wanted to go up to the 12 people situation.
Ooh, okay.
So it's a social deduction game. The idea is that you have a bunch of like packets of cards in the box that you randomly draw one out of.
I
See
like
these
it.
comparisons.
Okay,
Ooh,
okay.
yeah.
And then what will happen is you'll take out the number of cards that you need for whoever's playing, and one or more of them will end up having a spy card if it's Spyfall 2. In Spyfall 1, it only goes up to 8 players, and there's one. And that's at the bottom. So what will happen is you'll give those a shuffle once you've taken out the ones you're not using, and you'll give each person a card. That will give you a location and a role. So it could be that you're at the office party. Have you played this before?
I've played it on the phone. Mobile, there's an app for it.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So the idea is that for everyone else, you'll have this location, you'll have a role within it, and then the idea is that people will be taking it in turns to ask a question to somebody else there about like their situation that they're in, and they have to give this information back, but you need to give up enough information that you know where you are, or maybe within the role that you're at, but someone just has the card spy.
And they don't know where the scenario is set, but they have to respond as if they do know where they are.
Exactly. So they're in the situation where they don't know what's going on. They have to be listening keenly, trying to figure out what's giving these very weird clues going on. And at some point, they may or may not be revealed. It'll either be someone points to them and be like, I reckon you're the spy. And then they might do a vote to see whether or not the spy. Or it'll be ended because they go, I'm the spy and I know where we're at.
And then they can just go for it.
Exactly. Now, this game takes maybe 15 minutes, doesn't take a whole lot of explanation. It involves several people. You know, it goes better with more players, a larger player count. With the Spyfall 2, it goes up to that 12 player. So, you know, if more you're inundated with people that are coming to the swingers party, then it's quite good. And there's this element of mystery. You could shape it up. You're all someone's in there as a spy. You could have a themed swingers party. Exactly. So and then it's also got the kind of like, ooh, we're pulling out cards before the event actually happens later.
I like it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Thank you.
Okay.
Probably be my best thus far.
It's a really good one.
Do either of you have anything that's on the tip of your tongues?
Or like a game. I was just say something really good about that game. There's a variant which is called Spyland, and it takes it basically requires somebody knowing they're going to play the game in advance and setting this up so in secret, so nobody else is aware of it. And they take all of the spy cards and they put them into one pack, and it's like it's meant to be like a location pack. But in this case, everyone that draws out a card is a spy. And so nobody knows that they're not the only spy. So everybody ends up basically asking each other questions, trying to pretend they know where they are,
so everyone's
but
having a
nobody
baby.
knows where they are. So you end up having this really wild kind of situation
How does
where
it
people,
end?
people revealing that somebody thinks they're the spy, somebody else is the spy or whatever. It's
Well,
basically
I guess
the game.
they'll say, I'm the spy and
Well,
I know where you are.
well,
and
the
then someone will
game-
be like, no, wait, I'm the spy.
In that case, it could, but it's I think because there's a time limit on the game.
Right.
But the fun of it is just watching people ask questions, trying to pretend they know where they are when nobody is,
That's
and then
so
everybody
good.
reacting, going like, "Oh yeah, oh that was a clever question," and they're like, "Don't know where the heck we are." So I think that is just a brilliant thing. If anyone has Spyfall and like wants to try that, do try that. It's really good.
That does
so
sound
Yeah.
really, really good.
I have a suggestion. Yeah,
Go for it.
cool. All right. So obviously, games that take 8 players and require very little rules explanations aren't that common. But you said you like party games, and I know you sort of said no to Twister, and don't worry, this is not Twister. But for me, this is the game that kills Twister forever. It's a game called Yogi. It's designed by a designer that I am friends with. So, I should clarify
Disclaimer.
that. Bez Shiari, and she's a designer based in London, UK, wherever. And it's a game called Yogi. So the idea is it's just a deck of cards, okay? The game starts with a player taking a card from this deck, and on each of these cards is a rule that you must obey. But like Twister, it might be, for example, it's mostly physical. So it might be this card must touch your eyebrow for the rest of the game. So you would then take that card, place it, hold it against your eyebrow, and if at any point during the game that rule doesn't apply anymore, you've broken that rule, you are out of the game. So after you've taken a card and played the rule, you would then take a card, because you give it to somebody else. Sorry, I should have said that. So you give the card to somebody else, they obey that rule. That player then takes a card from the deck and then reveals a rule and then gives it to somebody else. And that might be like right elbow above shoulder. Oh, that's right, elbow. And then they have to obey that rule. So then it becomes harder and harder to play, sort of to keep obeying these rules, because you keep getting given these cards that kind of become harder and harder to keep obeying the whole time. I'm not doing a very good job of explaining this, but it's a very, very easy game to play, because literally you just say, okay, take a card, read it, give it to someone, that player has to obey that rule for the rest of the game. But the cards are already kind of funny. Some of them involve like it just makes you contort yourself into weird positions. But
which you will be doing later on.
Which exactly. So my thinking
limbering up.
was it plays for up to 8.
Yeah.
It's very easy to play. It's funny, and it's also helpful because if you see someone struggling to like do the most basic movements with the card that they've been given, then it kind of gives you information which you can or cannot use when choosing your partner, picking the keys later on in the game. And it's just a really good game. I sadly we don't actually have it at Chancing House Bristol, but we will soon because it's a very strong game.
You had it before it was called Yogi.
Yeah, so it existed called In a Bind, and the story of, sorry, I think this is kind of cool. I wouldn't usually tell the history of a game, but I think it's really cool. In the designer created a card game which had like no physical aspect apart from just one card, but when they were playtesting this game, that physical card was the one that people had the strongest feedback on. So she essentially redesigned a game based around this one card and created this whole physical one. And then they've gone on to release Yogi 2 since, which is more cards. And the really clever thing about this game, by the way, is that you can technically, it's very, very difficult, but technically none of the cards contradict each other. So you could end up with this like mess where you've got like your ear touching your shoulder and you've got like your chin touching your like chest and like cards everywhere. And it is technically possible that you could have multiple cards and never actually cross over. It's such a good game.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a really, really good game. I really like it. It's called Yogi.
Kind of like Twister, but with personal space.
Yeah, exactly.
Even the funny thing about it is that when you have these cards, like you still have to be able to get the card from the deck, so in the middle of the table. So being able to like reach over into the middle of the table and still pick up a card when your elbows are like touching each other and you're like your knees touching your like chest or something stupid like that. You still have to be able to do that. So it's like a challenge in yourself. Like it's really good though.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, that's good. That's a good suggestion.
Got 2, and I can't decide which one. But a very hard to remember name. I'm also going to go for quite a light party game. So this won't take you all evening, but it should help break the ice and maybe move into a bigger game if that's what you're going for. But I'm going to go for a game called, might be the worst or best game name I've ever heard. A game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises. It's quite a mouthful, but this is essentially a deck of cards, and it's just a whole bunch of different goofy-looking hand-drawn monsters. You deal out 5 of them, and the numbers 1 to 5 go on top of them. And every round, you sweep up all the monsters, you deal out a different 5. When the starting player draws randomly a card to themselves with the numbers 1 to 5. So they are randomly selecting one of these monsters. They have to make a noise that they think that monster would make. And then everyone else who's playing, on the count of 3, holds up the number of fingers to identify which monster they think that person's making the noise of. If you see what I mean. So
So that the cards are all the monsters are down.
Yeah, there's 5 monsters in the middle of the table that everyone can
Right.
see.
Is it? Sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. Ask a question.
Is it kind of like the sound version of Dixit? In like with
Yeah.
Dixit, you put you're kind of interpreting what the cards mean, but this is more interpreting what the monster's sound is.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's nonsense. Like you know, if you see a monster that looks like it makes a high pitched squeal or looks like it's grunting or whatever, and I feel like it's so silly and immediately easy to understand, and everyone's making a bit of a fool of themselves, and then afterwards, when everyone's guessing. Some people thought it was one monster, some people thought it was another monster, and everyone's like, "How? No, that monster obviously doesn't make that noise."
Yeah.
And it just gets everyone chatting and relaxing and being a bit goofy. It's really fun, easy icebreak game that doesn't necessarily have to take very long, but you can do a lot of rounds. There's like, I forget how many, there's something like 50 monsters in the deck.
Okay, yeah.
And they're double-sided as well, right?
And they're double-sided, yeah. So you can play for quite a long time until you decide, first person to get 3 right guesses wins, or 10 guesses, however long you want it to go.
That is good. And
This is good practice because later on you'll be hearing lots of weird noises.
Exactly. You get to know, how grunty are these people.
Are these guys playing the game still? Like, what's going on here?
They're playing it on their own over there.
So you might not know this, but it's actually designed by the same designer as the game that I suggest.
Oh,
That's
really?
Shari. Yeah.
really?
It's completely coincidental, I imagine.
Let her know that she makes great swinger party games.
She's got that niche cornered.
Got it.
Nice. Yeah, I've met the designer at like the UK Games Expo conventions. They're just the most lovely people ever. And she does a really great job of making interesting, completely different, kind of party-esque, like just wild. They're very creative.
They
Her
sound
approach to
great.
design is something else. Like,
Yeah.
she just makes these kind of really quirky games that you wouldn't ever see anywhere else. I feel like this,
Yeah.
but definitely she's got this niche of like making really weird, like that game. No, how has nobody come up with that game before? It's just so great. But
I also love that name and sort of hate that I couldn't remember it every time I'd be like trying to recommend it to
Yeah,
someone.
the monster noise game.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, is this actual name, that description you
Yeah.
gave?
Yeah, what I just said is its whole name.
Oh.
Can we
A
get
game-
that one again?
Yeah.
What is the name?
A game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes the noise.
Oh, wow.
There you
It's
go.
very literal. Yes.
Exactly what it says on the tin.
No one needs a like. That's it. We're good. The rule's done. We just read the title.
Yeah.
How many other times can you say that with a board game? There you go. I think so. You had a second one that you were going to go with, but
Well, I was considering, because you guys had already done sort of lighter party games going with a different tack. So I was thinking Mysterium. Which I don't know if anyone's familiar with. It's a longer, more complicated game with a board and tokens and things. But essentially what it boils down to is dream and picture interpretation. So one person knows the answer and everyone else is trying to figure out the answer. And they do it through dealing out sort of vague picture cards.
like Dixit. Dixit-esque cards.
And
Okay.
the one person who knows can't communicate, but they can like point to the pictures, try and give clues as to their like the group asks questions and the person has to non-verbally reply, and they have to solve the mystery together. I haven't played it for a long time, so I'm having to be quite vague about how it works because I don't actually remember how to play the game. But that's the sort of gist of it.
whenever someone asks about it in the cafe, it's always like, "Oh, that kind of Cluedo one," and it's like, it's not quite Cluedo, but you've got the same vein in there.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
okay.
It's like a
Sounds very
group
interesting.
solving the mystery, so it's working together, but also because it's non-verbal, you have to. It's very sort of group team bonding kind of vibe.
Which is, need a lot of.
Yeah, and then a bit of
bonding.
shouting at the end. It was like, why the smoke? You pointed at the smoke. Why would the smoke mean he had a knife? That's nonsense. So one person might be ostracized from the group.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right. Okay, those are all some pretty good suggestions.
Yeah, with those suggestions, is there anything that stands out to you? Is there any other questions you wanted to ask? Some clarifications on them? Or a reminder for the ones that have been forgotten about?
Yeah, maybe one in particular was said a long time ago.
I thought it was a really good one, though.
So I think they're all good. I think I like the shouty one because you can so easily understand it that it's, even if they're not into board games, they'll just know how to play it and it'll be really fun and silly, and they let their guard down immediately. I like Yogi because it's very a physical game without being having to be physical against someone else, like
Yeah.
Twister.
Yeah.
And again, like your inhibitions, you being silly and just having fun. And I like Spyfall because I played Spyfall and it is really good fun to play with people. It is a really good game. Like, even if you don't really know that people that well, you can jump straight into it. It's really easy to get your head around and it's really good fun. So
Excellent.
I like them all. If I had to pick one, I think I'm going to go with Yogi.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
Okay.
I'd also like to incorporate if you mess up a bit of like the card,
Yeah.
then you have to take a shot or something.
Yes.
Right.
Like, or maybe not a shot, that's hardcore. A sip of beer, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, like loosen your, a little maybe a drinking game element into it as well, so everyone relaxes a bit if they
I guess at that point, then they wouldn't also be out potentially. You could keep everyone in, so there's not a
Yeah.
situation of
Yeah, and also, like, the thing is, the game is, I feel like I should have said this part of the pitch as well, but
You've already won now.
It's right, I know, it's like, thank God. But one of the things that's cool about it is, so player elimination games tend not to be kind of good in the board game scene because there's nothing fun about like sitting out of a game or losing and just having to sit and watch everybody else play. But this game, you are literally watching other people. Like, part of the fun of it is watching how silly the game gets for other people. And it does get ridiculous. Like, after about 4 or 5 cards, it starts becoming like just this kind of weird, how to say, like physical like performance as people are trying to like shimmy along and trying to get cards. So it is better, I think, when you're out of it and you don't have that pressure anymore. You can still just laugh at everybody else at how silly it is and still be involved by like kind of saying, oh, give it to them, give that card to them, like, let's see how ridiculous we can get it. So I thank you very much. I'm very happy with that.
Thank you for the suggestion. I will in that hypothetical party I'm going to tonight, I'll be taking Yogi with me.
I can tell you where you can get it today if you want as well. Like, pick it up. So.
Perfect. Well, with that, would you say that we hit the recommendation on the mark? You weren't just it wasn't a reach for this situation?
No, I think you absolutely all the 3 suggestions like nailed it. I thought they were all great. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Where can people find you?
Over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Squid Game.
There you go. Well, thank you very much for joining us. That'll be all for us here today. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye. Bye.